Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on London Prodigal and we've made it to Act 1, Scene 13, which is the last scene in this play. We've got 3 monologues in this scene that we need to get to, and then we're done with this one. So only 3 more days of London Prodigal and then we move on. But before we get there, we have to cover what happened in Act 1, Scene 12, because yesterday we finished with Act 1, Scene 11. So where we are, Matthew has gotten into kind of dire straits. Everybody has sort of disowned him, and he disowned Luce. He was a jerk when he left, all this sort of stuff. So you can or you don't have to feel bad for Matthew at this point, depending on where you're coming from. But things had gotten so bad for him that in Act 1, Scene 11, he tried to rob his sister, Delia, and Artichoke. But then Artichoke got Oliver and Green Shield, and Delia sort of covered for him and was like, no, he wasn't actually trying to rob me. And she gives him a little bit of money to be like, I hope that this will get you out of some dire straits. But at the end of Act 1, Scene 11, he's like, really, I'm lost, and there's not much left for me to do. I have no friends, I have no money, all of that kind of stuff. So, Act 1, Scene 12, we get to check in with the happy people. We're outside of Civet's house, and we've got old Flowerdale and Civet and Francis and Luce, who is disguised as a Dutch maid at this point. Because remember, old Flowerdale said that he would take care of her, they would disguise her, he'd set her up somewhere good, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out that the place that he's chosen to set her up so that she can live somewhere familiar but be in disguise so she doesn't have to deal with the shame of the Matthew situation, turns out he set her up in Civet and Francis's house. So her new name is Tannikin, and Francis and Civet are very pleased with her. They're happy with her work, and Francis is like, oh, and that's such a cool headscarf that you wear. It's going to be all the fashion now, to let us, the reader and or the audience, know that Luce is definitely in disguise at this point, and also that Francis can't see through the disguise. But anyway, so Delia and Artichoke enter, and they recount the story of how they were almost robbed, and old Flowerdale is like, you're sure that it was Matthew that robbed you? And Artichoke is like, yeah, absolutely. And old Flowerdale is like, here, take this coin and don't ever speak of this whole robbery thing by Matthew ever again. And Artichoke is like, okay, cool. I should be able to, I'm happy to take money to keep secrets. And then they introduce Tannikin, the Dutch maid, to Delia and Artichoke, and everybody goes inside to start with the dinner preparations except for Delia and Luce. And once the 2 of them are on stage by themselves, Delia's like, what up, sis? Nice costume. And Luce is like, oh, don't tell anybody. And Delia's like, why? What's going on? And Luce is like, I'm here living in disguise so I can be comfortable while we wait for this whole Matthew situation to sort itself out. And Delia's like, just dump him already. And Luce is like, I can't do that. I need to wait for it to get sorted. And Delia's like, okay, fine. I'll keep your promise for a little while longer. And then they go inside, and it's the end of that scene. So now, finally, the last scene of the play. We're in Act 1, Scene 13. We're still on the road outside Civet's house, and Matthew Flowerdale enters by himself, and he says, on goes he that knows no end of his journey. I have passed the very utmost bounds of shifting. I have no course now but to hang myself. I have lived since yesterday, 2 o'clock, of a spice cake I had at a burial, and for drink, I got it at an alehouse among porters, such as will bear out a man, if he have no money indeed. I mean out of their companies, for they are men of good carriage. Who comes here? The 2 coney catchers that won all my money of me. I'll try if they'll lend me any. 2 people enter. What, Master Richard, how do you? How dost thou, Rafe? By God, gentlemen, the world grows bare with me. Will you do as much as lend me an angel between you both? You know you won 100 of me the other day. So this is a reminder that Matthew is desperate, like beyond desperate. He says that since yesterday at 2 o'clock, he's only had a little bit of spice cake and a little beer that somebody at an alehouse bought him, like out of pity. He's like, this is enough to maybe sustain, but this doesn't really help all that much. He's like, I need more. But I have no other recourse right now except to basically end my life. He says, I have no course now but to hang myself. So he is desperate enough that he's ready to not be alive anymore. But then these 2 characters enter, Dick and Rafe, And they are people that he had been gambling with when he had a little bit of money, and they won all of his money. He's like, I wonder if they still have it and they can lend some to me. So they come in and he's like, oh, my friends, hey, can you lend me just a little bit? Because, you know, you won a whole bunch off me the other day. Can you lend me just a smidge between friends? And they're both like, oh yeah, we've lost all of your money already. We don't have anything that we can give you. And they exit, and they are talking about the sad state that Matthew is in. They call him a vagabond at the end. And in response to being called a vagabond, Matthew is going to have another monologue tomorrow. So I will see you then for that. Mwah.